The last two queries that you have to create, you get to decide completely on your own. And in these cases, you're going to be using the criteria field on whatever tables and fields that you choose. But using the criteria field is a little bit like programming. And by that I mean that depending on what you put in the criteria field is going to pull up information from the table. So once again, when you're creating these last two criteria queries, don't include the primary or foreign key, and make sure that you pull up enough information so that that criteria might be useful in the real world. Long time ago, I found this website that actually has excellent information about using the criteria field in Access. And at the top here is the link. It's fontstuff.com/access/ACCTUT06, Access Tutorial 06. And so this is going to show you how to use the criteria field and give you some excellent examples. For your Access assignment, you have to create two completely different criteria-related queries. So let's talk about a few of them so that you can decide. Now these examples don't relate specifically to our practice database, but let's take a look at this one. If we had a field called Town in a table called Contacts, we would pull up all of the records that are equal to London. So when you put quotes around something, that means equals to whatever is in quotes, that it matches what is ever in quotes. Likewise, you can go down here. It's London or Paris. So we might want to pull up all the contacts that live in London or Paris. Or even further down, you could put London, Paris, or Amsterdam instead of stringing it all out in one field. Another interesting example is using the word not in the criteria field. And the word not means except. I want to pull up all of the contacts except for the ones that live in London. In this example down here, I want to pull up all the contacts that don't live in the UK, the USA, or France. Everybody else. The next section is about using wildcards, and I love wildcards because they're really kind of fun. So what you need to remember about wildcards is that the asterisk represents the word anything. So in this example, we're going to look at a company in the table Contacts that begins with the letter S. So it's like, you have to put the word like, and in quotes, S, and then asterisk. Like S anything is what it means. So it matches, the company name would match S anything. So in other words, any company that begins with the letter S. And likewise, you could also put the asterisk in the front. We want to look at all companies that end in PLC. So that begin with anything and end with PLC. So you must use the word like and quote, asterisk, PLC, close quote. And then of course it can get more sophisticated after that. A company that begins with the letters A through D, asterisk, which means everything. Now the next section, we're going to talk about looking at numeric fields. So in this example, we have a customer number in the contacts table, and in the criteria field, if we just put a number, it just essentially means equals 385. So the customer, pull up all the customers that have the customer number 385. Most likely that's just going to be one. Down here below, we're going to pull up all the customers that have a customer number less than 1,000 using the less than sign. And this is a little more sophisticated. Pull up all the customers with customer number between, and you have to use the word between 500 and 700. Dates are kind of fun too, except that you have to precede any dates with a pound sign. So in this case, we're looking at any invoice dates that equal 270998. And this is kind of interesting. We want to pull up all invoices that are dated today's date. So you have, if you have equal date and then open and close parentheses, it means today's date. Remember that when excluding things, you're going to use the word not. And that's pretty straightforward. We're going to look for all towns that are not London, not equal to London. We're going to look for any towns that are not beginning with the letter L, not like L anything. And then there are more sophisticated examples. So, before you create your 2 criteria queries, you might want to take a look at this, www.fontstuff.com/access/ACCTUT06.htm. So let's move on to our criteria queries. Once again, I'd like to start by showing you what our practice database looks like. There are many companies, each company has many stores, and each store has many customers. So of course, you have to make a decision. You might jot this down, what type of criteria you would like to use. In other words, what would you like to pull up? So in this query, I am going to pull up customers whose, let's say, last name begins with the letter M. And I can see that there are a few of those already. Again, we start with Create Query Wizard, simple query as always. And we want to pull from the customer table. And I am going to display the first name, the last name, and the date of birth, the rewards member. I am also going to display the store, maybe the zip code. Well, we'll start with the state and the zip code. And those would be the stores that those customers shopped in. And click Next, Detail Query, and stop here and rename it Criteria Query 1 and modify the query design. Click Finish, and once again I'm going to pull this up so you can see it better. Once again, the very first row has got the fields that I chose. The second row contains the tables that they come from. And what we are interested in most is the criteria row. So as I said, I want to display all those customers and of course some store information in which their last name begins with the letter S. Whoops, make that an M. So you always start with the field that you are going to use criteria against. So it's going to be customer's last name that begins with the letter M. So start with customer last name and slide down to criteria, to that criteria row, and you're going to type in like, open quote, capital M, asterisk, which means anything, and close quote. And right-click Save and right-click Close. And let's make sure that we run this query. And look there, we actually have several customers whose last name begins with the letter N. And I can always go back to Design View to double check that. And that's it for the first criteria query. So let's go on to create our second criteria query. So what I did was I took a look at the customer table, the prompt query, and a query that has criteria. You have to create 2 criteria queries and name them criteria query 1 and criteria query 2, and they have to be significantly different. You can also create other criteria. Any additional queries that you create for extra credit have got to be criteria queries that really expand your horizons a little bit in terms of some of the options in the criteria field. I want them to be all different, or you're not going to get credit for that.